Good evening. Today we are doing a very interesting session based on the various free programs that we have done over the last 6 to 8 months. I'm sure our viewers have seen these programs, and this is in continuation with that. This is especially connected to one of the programs which was mentioned as customer acquisition. And this is actually a detailed version of that because we felt that was a very interesting topic that we talked about. And also we have got feedback and comments from our viewers as to deal more on this topic. And that's why we have chosen this topic as today's topic. And hopefully this will answer quite a few more queries that have been raised as in the first program. Okay. Today, as always, my name is Abir Mozumdar from the Idea Factory in association with Mr. TUHIN MUKHARJEE of iSTRATEGIC Consulting. We are bringing this program to you, and hopefully this will answer a few queries on customer acquisition as well as various other aspects associated with customers in the medium and long term for the MSME customers. As we already remember that these programs are mostly meant for smaller organizations who are trying to find their feet under the ground. And basically most of these thought processes would apply to them. But at the same time, this would also apply to larger organizations as well. Yeah, this is, as we have seen, this is a slightly detailed version vis-a-vis the programs that we normally do. And we have broken it up into certain format wherein we will try to answer a few queries raised by our viewers as in the previous programs. And hopefully this would be able to answer a few of them. Okay. Right. Okay. As we have seen that the program has a format and we go follow by the format itself. Today, most important is to talk about customers in totality. Now, as we know, after the COVID, the customers have totally evolved vis-a-vis the COVID priorities. And today's customers are quite different from what they were before. Okay? As some of these thought processes we have already shared in our previous videos, and mostly they have got online, their priorities have changed, their value for money perception has changed, and also they are more on the, their power is increased in the buying process vis-a-vis the supplier. So vis-a-vis the company, the power of the customer in deciding to buy, he has more choices and he staggers the purchases today. He is in no hurry to buy things now and then. And that's why he chooses to, do a bit of a research before he purchases programs. And that has been shown in this survey that we are trying to do. We have done, it has been pulled out and some of these thought processes have been put in because all the customers are mostly majority of the customers study products online, they purchase online, and obviously they look at the various options that are available to them. As so far today's customers are more informed. They also are very trendy, which means that they will buy the latest product, which means that they are fully aware that which is the current variant of the product that they are going to buy. For example, if somebody is trying to buy a pressure cooker online, he or she is going to knows that this is the current version of it, and that's how they are going to be. So they are on top of all the choices that they have. And obviously, they are going to invest in the most latest version of the product. In terms of time-saving services, because home services are available nowadays, so instead of going out to the restaurant, they might even offer home service and home delivery of food at home. Also, similarly, the monthly groceries that they would make to a shopping mall are nowadays brought at home. So they are fully aware of the time-saving services. And, that's how the online has helped most of them. Also, there has been a huge lot of options for customers to find out that there are customizations available to them and not the standard products. Only the other day, I watched a video of a new company, which is called Tailor Smart, which, produces the trousers and shirts of people on a customized basis, and the design is customized. The options are huge, and similarly, there are so many customization available to people today. No more the standard one size fits all. So there are multiple choices available, and customers are very informative also. Also, women have always been in charge of household purchases because they know the home better, and their decisions are more valuable. But nowadays, their roles have increased even more, and even with ticket purchases. So the female or the women in the house has become the primary purchaser of most of the product because she decides what is the real value for money, whereas the man does not have a clear perception of the value for money in the whole process. And maybe the ratio of a women buying a product vis-a-vis a man buying a product has significantly increased over the time. So these are some of the trends that we are seeing in totality. Also, there are because most of these products are most of these products are purchased online. So obviously, e-commerce is the zone that most of these purchases are happening. And as we have told you, because most of the purchases they are seen online, they are looking at the latest technology, which is the augmented reality or the virtual reality, and all those tools are now available in the website so that the people can have a look and feel of the physical product in the physical mall. Instead of visiting the mall, they can have a look at this online, and that helps them purchase. So your dresses, your shoes, your jewelry, they are all available on a 3D version in your laptop, and that helps it easier for them to purchase online. Also, most of the purchase now, the world has always has become no more net banking. They have already moved. Most of the purchases have gone into the UPI method, and obviously PayPal and Phone Pay and Google Pay and all those options are slowly increasing to people, and increasingly become more online savvy, and these options are easily coming to them. As we have said, that B2B and B2C, each of these purchases, even B2B purchases are happening online vis-a-vis the pre-COVID ones, where B2B essentially was face-to-face or physical, and B2C also. The proportion of the purchases happening online on B2B and B2C is increasing exponentially. And the survey shows that by 2040, 95% of retail purchases will be online. That means people are slowly and surely shifting to online purchase over physical. That also gives them a lot of convenience to shop from home. They save a lot of money, and they can prioritize the purchases. It's not over the weekends or any time. So there are a lot of flexibility that an online purchase brings over an offline purchase. And this being the backdrop, my basic question to Mr. Mukherjee is, Mr. Mukherjee, if you can throw some light on how customers can be identified and how customers can be acquired in today's scenario.
Thanks, Mr. Majumdar. So I'll be discussing this point. So let me share my screen and PowerPoint. So this is visible?
Yes. You can put it in slide mode.
Right. The thing is that it's very important for us to understand that customer, who is our customer. Most of the business, they do not understand. That is the problem. So it's very important for us to identify the customer. If we cannot identify the customer properly, probably that we cannot sell the product. And there are many kinds of the customer nowadays because the world has changed. Now customer has got many definitions. Earlier it is used to say that customers, the king, queen, they are no more king, queen. They are the customers. They were the customers. They are the customers, and they will be the customer in the future. But there are two kinds of the thing. Now the primary customer and the prime. Because as we are evolving over the time, everyone is not our customer, and that cannot be also. So what is the point? The point is the primary customer and the tribe. A primary customer who is actually consuming our products, they are the primary customer. And the tribe, the people who are not directly consuming our the products, but they play a very important role. They play a very important role in making the organization. So tribe and the primary customer we need to understand. Example, the Google and the Amazon. Google has got something like 1 lakh kind of the customers, means who pays to Google for the advertisement. But half of the world population is the Google tribe because they actually start everything on the Google. Somehow, any kind of the service they actually use. So they are in the tribe. So everybody knows Google. So if Google depends on only their customers, probably they cannot become the this kind of the major in the IT industry or whatever, means in the software industry, IT industry, or information technology. They cannot. So they are actually using the tribe and also using the primary customer. So it's very important that you need to understand who is your primary customer, means that who is directly consuming your product or the service, and who is not directly consuming, rather than they are the silent, or they are playing a very important role in your organization as a tribe. That is very important. If you cannot understand, if you cannot actually identify this, probably the whole structure will be actually broken. And that's the mandate in the means mandate of the new age, that we need to understand who is our primary customer and who is in the tribe. This is very, very important part that every organization should understand. It's not only the IT industry, it is actually valid for FMCG or means technology or pharma, anywhere. Because if you see that dealer distributor network in the particularly FMCG industry, they are sometimes the primary customers and the tribe, or they are sometimes only the primary customers, because the end consumer is only the consuming the product. So the means end customer is the primary customer and the tribe, because the data distributor they are actually playing the vital. In many cases, the data distributor or means the distributors are only consuming the product. In that case, they are the primary customer. So it is very important to understand that who is our primary customer, who is the tribe. That is why it is very important to identify the customer first. Then only actually you can design your advertisement, promotion, and other kinds of the marketing strategies to target that. And probably your strategic decision depends on that. So I would like to request Mr. Majumdar to take it ahead in the second one.
Right.
Mr. Majumdar, yeah.
Yeah. Right. I think while we discussed customer acquisition, now we move on to the topic of customer satisfaction as well as customer retention. As we know that when customers come over to on board, there are a lot of responsibilities that an organization has to happen. And this flow chart gives a very clear indication as to how much effort goes into getting a customer on board. And from the point of, if you assume this to be a 7 or an 8 stage process, you can see that starting from the awareness to the nurturing till he purchases, there's a lot of work that the company does in terms of branding, in terms of promotion, in terms of marketing the product till the customer makes a purchase. So while after he purchases, the real game starts, because that is the time when the company, the customer is experiencing the product or the service of the company, and that is the time his expectation, after he's paid his money, that is the time that is expected, that the company is expected to give the world-class product or the service. And that's how, depending upon the support, the impression of the customer about the company increases irrespective of the branding. Now it's a new what should I say, we call it benchmarking or new realization. While the branding etc had put some expectation in place, now the post sales will actually show that if you have talked about so many things, whether you are actually walking the talk. So from support, if the support is good, when the customer is handheld, all the support is being given, and whatever the customer wanted, from there the loyalty begins, which means that the customer is so happy with your service, it will not be going or churning out to any other competition network. And through that, the word of mouth marketing with the customer is going to recommend your product or your service to its own people of influence, that is the real success. So essentially, this is a huge journey from your awareness to the advocacy, and may take months or even years for one customer to advocate or to bring another customer on board based on the good feedback that is given. So there's a lot of work to be done by the company, and that has to be consistent, that has to be across all customers, and the reviews will come online. So obviously today is in the online world, if your service is bad, people will know. If your service is good, people will know. So assuming that is the reality, people, your company, to get a branding, to get a proper name from the customer, vetted by the customer, is also a great job. And my own experience, of course, I come back to this experience of telecom, because my being in telecom for so many, I have seen how much effort had gone into them. And today, most of us have stabilized in a certain network, more or less based on our experience. We are not deciding to churn to any other competitor, because we are comfortable in that. And whenever we have a problem, the company solves it overnight. So we are more or less happy with the service or the support that we get from that particular network, be it Airtel, be it Vodafone, or Reliance. These are the main three players that are in telecom, and that is true for any product or any service. People will stabilize in a particular product or a service. Next, we always know about complaints, but today when we are talking of customers, we are also talking of customer ecstasy and then loyalty, which means that if we are going to delight our customer, there are various stages from the complaint that you put a complaint and the company solves it for you. Those days are gone. Customers are no more happy with only complaint solving. They want to be satisfied, they want to be nurtured, they want to be delighted, surprised, and therefore ecstasy is the real term. And it's a whole lot of job for the company to reach to the level of the ecstasy, which means that you surprise the customer with your product or your service or your commitment to service. And to surprise the customer, there has to be a lot of steps, from complaint solving to surprising the customer. I will not give you too many examples, but my recent example of my refrigerator at home, vis-a-vis my experience of refrigerator before, whenever we had a refrigeration issue before, 5 years before or 10 years before, typically the refrigerator guy would come and resolve the problem. Today, the refrigeration service, first of all, it's very impromptu. It's tracked, and as soon as you talk to a customer, they'll give you a tracking number. Automatically, it will come from the All India service number to Calcutta number. All those things are there. But what surprised me is, first of all, they did a video service when we first logged the complaint. They saw the refrigerator, and whatever complaint I've given, they've seen it physically, digitally, before sending the person. That gave them a clear understanding what the client is telling. And in case there are small things which the client can do, they can immediately tell the client, please change the switch or change the button, or this is not working well. So my people, they are saving a lot of time out there. Okay, that's one. Secondly, whenever they are coming, they came in a day or so, and they served, they even gave us a bit of a training as to this is the way the refrigerator has to be serviced. So these are the do's and don'ts, which they would have initially given when we bought it, but we would have forgotten it. Also, another thing that I wanted to tell us that once we bought this refrigerator, and the previous refrigerator had served about 10 years, and it is around that time they called us up and they said, your refrigerator is 10 years. This is the new model coming. Do you want to upgrade to this service? Do you want to upgrade to this new refrigerator? And whether we will give you a discount of X% on the new product if you upgrade it today. And please remember, we phase out a refrigerator after every 12 years. So you will anyway have to, buy a new refrigerator after 2 years. Why don't you do it now? Because then you will not get a upgradation value or a discount value. You will get a discount value today. Now, this was something is a very new development, which has not happened before. And this is what we want, because they keep a log of the product that we have, what is happening to the product. They come for service, they come for AMC, and they have, but they also have a track of what is the aging of the product and whether we should upgrade it to the new product. These are small things. These are not definitely of the ecstasy level, but definitely we have come a long way from complaints to maybe delight, and from delight tomorrow we will go into ecstasy. So companies are thinking, companies are changing their models, and service is improving gradually, and then only our loyalty will stick to the company. If we see the company is thinking about the product, thinking about the services that they're offering, obviously we will have our loyalty into the system. We had also discussed, let me remember, I had made a video presentation of a customer service some time back, and that is also available on YouTube. There are various issues on customer service that I've discussed it, and some of these could be have evolved, because that video was put up about 1.5 years back, and a lot of things may have changed in these 1.5 years. Never mind, but some of these thought processes are kind of evergreen and can vary even today. Today, you are seeing that your Blinkit, your Blinkit is coming, and then your new Zepto is coming with a 10-minute service. So basically, though there's a lot of controversy on a 10-minute service of grocery, but at the same time, India has truly moved to a customer charter model where they are committing beforehand. This is the kind of product, this is the timeline that you're going to get, this is the service. These are the commitments from our side, and that takes a whole organization at the back end. You have to keep on rearranging the organization at the back end and seeing how we can service the customer within that period of time. So whether you give a timeline of 2 hours or whether you give a timeline of 24 hours, you will have to support the customer across the country with that kind of a support line. So today's organizations are much more nimble, much more fluid, and they offer product and services, the consistency, and also they commit to the customer that these are the minimum expectations about you, about us, that you can expect vis-a-vis the product. These things are definitely improving over time. A customer charter which was 1 year back is definitely evolving, and today's customer charter is definitely evolving. But customer charter gives a commitment of an organization, and that's how they are building trust with the customers. With this, my question to Mr. Mukherjee is, Mr. Mukherjee, if you can share 1 or 2 case studies where we can highlight certain aspects of these thought processes that we have discussed so far.
Okay. So basically, the thing is that the customer acquisition is very important. The thing is that, so let's take an example of Biofra India. It is one of the leading pharma company in India. So everybody knows probably. It's a case study in MIT. So what is that? It's a kind of open culture. The culture is very important. Whether you want to get the customer, retain the customer, and service the customer. It's very important. Because I have seen many organizations, they are very easy in acquiring the customer, not servicing them, and as a result of that, they cannot retain. And as always that we need to remember that old word, the old proverb, that acquiring customer is much more costlier than the existing customer. So you need to have a culture. First is that you need to have a culture within the organization to service the customer. Because if you are not actually servicing the customer in the proper way, your existing base will go ahead. It will be erosion. So very important. So your culture has to be there to actually service the customer, and that will have a ripple effect in getting the customers. Because everybody in the today's internet age, everybody knows that what's happening in the organization. Is what kind of the products are available, what kind of the culture is there in the organization, that is also known. Because in a kind of the internet age where everything is available on your mobile, you can check it everything. So in that kind of the situation, you need to form that kind of a culture. Passion to solve customer problem. You must have the passion. Because as I said, that organizations are very busy in acquiring the customer. They're designing the sales funnel. They're having the advertisement, costliest advertisement wherever it is possible. If you turn your head, you will find everywhere the organization putting their advertisement. But Are they passionate to solve the customer's problem? When the customers are coming to their board, they're enough passionate to serve them? That's the big question. The organization who is doing that, they are the great organization. Biocon is doing that because Biocon started in a very small kind of the setup in Bangalore. Mr. Majumdar Shah started, and they survived or they thrived over a period of time. Open and creative culture. This was very important. That is particularly we can see in the Biocon because over a period of time or very long, in short span of time, they evolved as a big player in the farm industry, big global player. So open and the creative culture also is very important, and that helps the Biocon to actually thrive in the market. Highly desirable place to work for the employees. Because if you see that if your employees are not getting the recognition, or the employees, if your organization is not sought after by the employees, probably the thing is that you'll be rejected by the customers. And that is why the Biocon, because if you see the scientists and researchers, they prefer to work in the Biocon rather than any other bigger organization or super branded multinational. So it's a desirable place, and the customers also know that. The customers know that which product is coming from the which means corporate house or the organization. So that's very important, and Biocon is an example for that. Customer attraction index is very high for Biocon because whomsoever means who are the customers for the Biocon, they are actually able to retain them for a longer period of time. That's the culture value they have, the high brand value. Because when we are talking about the MSME, so it's very important for all the MSME owners to understand that first they need to develop a brand and they need to develop a place where the employees will actually love to work. In our experience, where we have seen that employers are not very keen to make that kind of the environment, rather than they are focusing on the focusing on the bottom line basically or the profit. Yes, it's true, very important. Profit is required to sustain for every organization, but it should not be at the cost of the brand value or the employees welfare. And Biocon is in such an example where we have seen that within the short period of time, they have emerged as a leading global player in the pharma industry. All the products under their umbrella means are big hit. It means all the means are preferred by the people, by the customers. It's very, very important for us to understand this kind of thing, and it's a case study that has been taught in the leading management discourse in around the world. So we can actually understand what kind of the things we need to do to make our organization much better to perform. So I request Mr. Majumdar to take it ahead to us.
Right. Yes. After taking the case studies, let us look at a framework which will help understand what is the impact or what is the framework that we are talking of at this point in time. Though this is, a very simple framework and need not necessarily be, very, innovative. But at the same time, we can understand that, this gives a clear understanding as to what role the customer can play, a company can play at what stage. Typically, as we have said, that customer identification and customer acquisition, they take a lot of energy because till the time the customer has paid you, he is not your customer. Okay, so typically, from the stage for you to identify someone who wants to buy your product to the time that he's going to he's going to pay your product, that becomes a very important element of the process. So while he becomes a customer, then only your role starts in terms of customer satisfaction and retention. As long as the customer is satisfied, that is the time that you make the revenues. All others are cost levels. If you can see, till you get the customer, it's all a cost, which is called the cost of acquisition. And once you get the customer, as long as the customer is satisfied in your system, you make revenues. And if you make revenues, you make profits. Okay. But as soon as the customer again is unhappy for some reason and wants to churn your system, and then you put in extra effort to get him back, your cost again increases because you want to retain it at any cost. So your valuable time is basically in the customer satisfaction zone. And each of them will give you a certain kind of signal or a feedback whether the customer is satisfied in your system or not. It is not very difficult. If you read the signals, how the customer is behaving vis-a-vis the complaint they are raising or the support that you are giving, you will always automatically get an understanding when the customer is satisfied in your system or not. Okay, so it's not a big thing. Only thing is that the bigger problem with companies face is that they do not, the touch points are weak. So once they handle so many customers, so they are only busy, acquiring customers. When the customer is on board, that support is missing, and when that support is missing, you are pushing the customer towards the churning process, which is again your customer retention has to come. So it's very important for you to understand that a satisfied customer is your main revenue earner. All the other stages are actually cost stages. Okay. Typically, this can, while we have seen all these stages, I thought it would make sense to put a certain amount of unit or a measurement as to what, what they lead to. For example, identification is when you are at an identification level, you call them the leads. And what is the kind of leads that you are getting per week? Are you getting 5? Are you getting 10? So how many customers are you identifying for yourself? And when you're trying to acquire customers, what are the sales that is happening per week? And when you're making the sales, you have to understand how much about the cost of acquisition that you have. That's a common term that is being used, and there's a formula in every industry. So cost of acquisition is the amount of cost that you acquire to get the customer on board, which is measured as a rupees per subscriber, but that does not include your marketing expenses or branding expenses or whatever. Okay. Then if we go to the customer satisfaction level, as we have told you, that is the time when you make revenues, and that is the time you make profitability. So it's very important to have the right measures at this point in time. And if the customer is happy, the customer may stay in your system for 3 years, may stay in your system for 5 years, or may churn out in 3 months also. So age on system is also something which is measured. And also we use a term called lifetime value, which means that how much profitable revenue that he's bringing on your table during the age. So it's very simple revenues, per month revenue into number of months that is there on your system. So if it is there on 3 years, you multiply it with 36. And so you see the amount of value that he has added to your system. This is also a typical language that most industries use. And then when you go to customer satisfaction, you are also going to get the customer satisfaction scores, which most companies do it on a quarterly basis. From there, they get a feedback as to what the customer wants, and that helps them improve their services. There are also some other tools that companies may use today or may not, which is called the customer delight graph or the customer happiness graph. These are the topics, these are simple tools which helps you to scale. A customer might give you a scale, on a scale of 5, might rate you on a 5. It may give you 3 or 4 or 5. So if he gives you 5, then the customer is delighted with your service. Similarly, a customer happiness clock, like a clock, it has 12 divisions. And if it is giving you from 9 to 12, that means it is very happy with your service. If it is given from 1 to 3, that means it's not very happy with your service. On top of that, there are certain amount of framework that we are working on, which is called the thought leadership framework. That will also give us score. We will just talk an elementary part of it in the next slide or so, which is on the making at this point in time. But that also brings in a certain amount of creativity into the customer satisfaction level, and see how we can look at the customer on a different angle or perspective, and how we can help improve the customer satisfaction. So that's actually the roadmap to ecstasy. From satisfaction to the roadmap to ecstasy, how we reach out to them. And then the last part is, of course, retention. Retention has its own cost. And taking all these revenues, costs together, we ultimately come into the profitability per customer of the product. And if you have 10 customers, so you multiply the profitability with 10 customers to get your total profitability. So these are the basic measurements. There are drilled down. Many of these measurements can be drilled down further and will vary from industry to industry in terms of the units, in terms of the parameters, or in terms of the values also. But more or less, we do measure these things, and that gives a sense of whether the customer is satisfied with us or not. This is a very schematic diagram that we are making, and we want to have a dialogue with these clients, with our people, and to see to what extent we can improve upon this. We assume that the client has a world-class service. That is why you are there. or a product, or the customer might get time to, you may have a problem with the marketing, you may have a problem with the market development to get customers, but you should be informed. As we have already told you, your product or the service, the core element for which you have opened your business has to be very strong. So we are assuming you have a world-class product or a service. Okay. Secondly, the customer goes into the level of ecstasy. So we are assuming that we have products or services from where we move from complaints to satisfaction to delight to ecstasy. That gives a measure, and each that gives a feedback onto the creativity box. Thought leadership is the creativity box where we keep on thinking new things for the customer, either in terms of the business delivery model or in terms of the product or the service. So the thoughts that go for the product or the service will improve the product or service on the middle term, medium term, on the long term, on our own thinking, independent thinking model, as well as the feedback that we get from the customer. Similarly, those which we are improving the business tomorrow about the customer ecstasy, that also improves this. And for example, the Tata Nano that has not worked well within India, surprisingly, may come over with a better version today on an electric vehicle format, and that may change the dimensions of the game, because that was a very good killer product and somehow it did not catch the fancy of the customer. But by this time, the company should have got all the feedback what the customer wants, and maybe Tata Nano can be launched in a newer version. So these are some of the thoughts that goes on in our mind. And while we have talked about all this, I just wanted to say is actually a continuation of what we are trying to say. This is kind of a summary line which says that a satisfied customer is the best business strategy of all, which means that if we can help satisfy a customer or a delight a customer or a ecstasy of a customer, we have hit the right button for business. That means we are in the right business, we have the right business model in place, and we are going to build a profitable business around it, because we have been able to satisfy the customer and he's going to stay with us for 3 to 6 years or even more because our service is good. But that does not mean that we have a static model. The whole process is a dynamic model, which means that if we satisfy today, 1 year down the line, your services and products have to improve in such a way that we satisfy in that time. And 2 years down the line, your product and the service have to improve so well that he will be satisfied even 2 years down the line. So the whole process is to catch the understanding of the customer, take the journey of the customer ahead of you, be a partner to the customer, understand the mood of the customer, and design and develop the product or the service or the business model to suit the customer's requirements. I think these are some of the thoughts that I have. My question to Mr. TUHIN Mukherjee. Mr. Mukherjee, would you like to take it forward from here?
Yeah, let me share my screen. Last thing is that we can say that sustainability. Sustainability of the business comes from the customer end, because if there is no kind of the good customer or the loyal customer, your business is not going to have the sustainability. Another thing is the sustainability, the pillar, which has got the 4 components. Unit is the planet, the people, society, and your organization itself. These are the things your organization is your organization basically the economic benefit. You need to see the people who are working in your organization, they should have the kind of the economic benefit. Then only they will be working for you. Society for whom you are developing the product that should not harm, means any kind of the society, means that should not pollute others, or they should not be any kind of the side effects. People, the people around you